Good morning, and thank you for being here. I'm Al Jones. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Arlington. I am grateful to stand here with our partners from the FBI to share that by working together, we made an arrest on a 14-year-old murder case. You may recall 2 years ago, I stood here and told you about a cold case we solved with the help of FBI and their investigative genetic genealogy team. This technique has been a game changer for law enforcement, and it helped provide answers to families and communities who have waited years to receive. Given the promise of investigative genetic genealogy showed in the first case, we began looking for other cases that would be a good candidate for this process. And we took a case to the FBI from 2012 we thought that may fit the bill. On January 20th, 2012, approximately 8:50 a.m., officers responded to an apartment complex at the 2700 block of South Collins Street, where 32-year-old Irasema Chavez was fatally, brutally stabbed to death inside. The Tarrant County Medical Examiners later determined that she was stabbed more than 100 times. A TV was reported missing from the apartment. We believe that the killer took the TV. Detectives at the time conducted a very thorough investigation, pursued several leads, but they could not fully identify the suspect. The strong lead that we had was a droplet of fresh blood that was recovered from a bedroom TV stand inside the apartment. The crime lab determined that the blood sample did not come from the victim, and it belonged to an unidentified Hispanic female. Detectives uploaded the DNA profile into CODIS, which is a national database used to compare DNA profiles in criminal investigations. But we've never got a match. So in November 2024, our homicide detectives unit met with the FBI and let them know about the unknown DNA profile we had. We asked the FBI if they consider using the investigative genetic genealogy to generate a lead for us. They graciously agreed, and I would like to bring up FBI Special Agent in Charge, Joe Rothrock, to talk about the investigative genetic genealogy and the work they put into this case.
Thank you. And good morning. I'm Joe Rothrock, Special Agent in Charge of FBI Dallas. I want to start by thanking Chief Jones and the Arlington Police Department for their collaboration on the Irasema Chavez investigation. As the Chief mentioned, in November of 2024, the Arlington Homicide Unit met with the FBI to discuss whether this case would be a good candidate for investigative genetic genealogy, or IGG. IGG is a technique that combines unidentified crime scene DNA with traditional genealogy research to identify new leads for law enforcement. It starts with an unknown DNA sample recovered from a scene. That sample is then submitted to a publicly accessible genealogy service to identify potential relatives of the unknown DNA profile. Investigators then begin the process of constructing a family tree of individuals identified as potential relatives. This is a resource-intensive process. It's only accomplished by reviewing publicly available records. Leads are built based on those possible genetic relationships to the unknown DNA sample. FBI personnel review individuals within the family tree who could potentially be the suspect. Compare them to information such as witness accounts, location, and timing of the crime to identify a likely suspect. Only then do we seek a comparison of DNA between the potential suspect and the unknown DNA from the crime scene. Based on this work, in April of 2026, our IGG team identified Arlington Police Department that a potential suspect had been identified. This is the second time the FBI has stood along the Arlington Police Department to announce a breakthrough in a cold case using IGG. IGG is one of the most valuable tools that law enforcement has today. Since 2018, The FBI has effectively used this method to assist in solving nearly 250 cases across 30 states. I want to again thank the Arlington Police Department for their collaboration on this investigation. It's our hope that today's announcement brings a measure of comfort to Irasema's family and to the larger community of Arlington. I'll turn it back over to Chief Jones.
Thank you. So earlier this year, our homicide detective got a call from the FBI letting them know that the IGG process had identified a potential suspect, 42-year-old Mayra Velasquez. She was a close friend of the victim who lived just a few miles away from the crime scene. With this new information in hand, our homicide unit began conducting follow-up investigation into Ms. Velasquez. In May, they were able to obtain a sample of DNA from a discarded trash, and we sent it to our crime lab for further analysis. The lab determined that the DNA was a match to the droplet of blood recovered from the crime scene. After consulting with the Tarrant County DA's office, we obtained a warrant for her arrest for one count of capital murder. Last week, members of our fugitive unit, violent crime unit, and covert investigative unit located her in Hearst and took her into custody without incident. The motive of the stabbing remains unclear. If anyone has additional information on the case, we ask them to contact us. I am extremely proud of the work that our officers and our crime scene investigators did on this case. They showed tenacity and dedication, and they never gave up. I am grateful for the FBI for their continued partnership, and I'm most thankful that we're able to tell the family of Ms. Chavez that we've made an arrest in this case. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Chief, there is a video that was released in this case. Is that her in the video? And then the second question is, in the arrest affidavit, there's mention of the victim's cell phone and something you learned, whatever you learned from the cell phone. What role does that play in this case as well?
We have our great detective who actually led the investigation on this case, and she can probably answer some of those questions that you're asking.
Hello, my name is Detective.
Come on.
Give us your first and last name and spell it for us, and your title, please.
My name is Detective Dixon, Tracy Dixon, TracyDixon. And I am a homicide detective for the Arlington Police Department. So to answer your question, we believe that that is Ms. Velasquez in that video. And your second question was regarding the decedent's cell phone? Okay. So the decedent's cell phone was valuable in this case and has provided information to us. That's not information I'm going to share right now. We'll save that for court. But it was a valuable source of information about their relationship.
Was the weapon ever recovered from the scene?
No, it was not.
Detective or Chief, if one of you could talk about, at the time, I know this was way before your time here, Chief, but was there, in talking with the family of the victim, talk that this suspect who ended up being arrested might be involved?
What I can tell you is from the initial investigation, our homicide unit turned every stone. They interviewed both families. Unfortunately, they couldn't tie the suspect to the case. But as I said, through the investigation and the help of the FBI, we were able to identify her through the IGG process, and we were able to link her to the residence through DNA.
Chief or detective, you have a drop of blood, but no motive. Are you prepared for the defense attorneys to say, they were friends, she cut her hand over there days later? What other evidence do you have beyond that drop of blood?
So, Ms. Velasquez, I'm sorry. Ms. Velasquez was interviewed, and in that interview, we learned information that will be helpful in that process. I'm not going to disclose that right now. They were friends, and Ms. Velasquez had been in the apartment before. But we were able to obtain some information from her in the interview, which will help in her prosecution.
Are you confident that you have the person in custody
Yes,
who committed this murder?
yes, ma'am.
Detective Dixon, can you take us back to the moment that you learned you got the break in this case, that very second? How did it make you feel? And also, what does it feel like to be able to contact the family and say, hey, I've got an answer for you now?
So the IGG work is very labor intensive, and I'm familiar with the process. And so hearing that news that they had obtained a lead for us was very exciting. Not only as a detective on the case, but also someone who's familiar with that process. So when we received that news, we were elated, very excited about it. There was still a lot of work to be done at that time to actually further confirm that it was her, of course. And there's still more work that we're doing right now. And your second question, I'm sorry.
I think you answered it all.
Okay.
Telling the family.
Tell the family.
Oh, telling the family, that's why. Being able to share that with the family is why we do this work. And they were very grateful. It was emotional. But everybody who's involved in this, whether you're the detective, whether you're on the FBI's IGG team, whether you're a crime scene working behind the scenes, everybody who touches a case like this feels that elation when it's solved, feels the pain for the family, and the reason why we all give so much of ourselves is for that.
Is there anybody else that's being investigated as part of this murder case, or was this just the suspect?
Currently, there is nobody else that we're looking at in reference to this case. But again, we're still conducting an investigation into this. So again, I asked our community if there's anybody out there that have more information that can provide, or that they can provide information to us, that we ask that they do come forward.
Are you able to provide more insight on the family tree, and how we get from a family member who helped break this case and getting Velasquez behind bars?
And I think that's.
Well, I won't go into specifics on the family tree. What I will say is that, look, this investigation starts in 2012 with a really effective job by the crime scene folks from Arlington PD and the tenacious work of the Arlington PD's detectives, right? And it's over a period of years that work continues. In 2024, when we get involved, again, this is really just building out what is publicly available to all, using that genealogy research to create a family tree. And then, as the detective mentioned, that's when the work really begins. So law enforcement continues to work through each member of that family tree, trying to limit that number of individuals until we determine a likely suspect. And it's only then that we look for one-to-one DNA comparisons with the suspect DNA we have from the scene, and then that potential suspect. So again, as the detective said, this is really a resource-intensive operation. I think it also speaks to the dedication of the Arlington Police Department and the FBI, not just to Irasema's family, but to the community at large.
And obviously that my question, did that family member, are they made aware that this could be tied to a case that's being investigated?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into specifics of our conversations with potential witnesses in the case, but I will just say that this is resource intensive. It requires a great deal of traditional law enforcement work. This is really just a place to, create new investigative leads.
And when it comes to the discarded trash, was that a Ford? Can you provide some background on
I'll defer to Arlington PD on that one.
Unfortunately, getting so far into the weeds into our investigation, I think we're going to have to hold off on providing that information until the prosecution.
Chief, what do you say to other families who are still holding out hope on cold cases, still looking for answers? What message does this case send to them?
The message that I want to send is, the Arlington Police Department, we're very, very dedicated to the victims of homicides. We do not stop investigations. We continue until we can come up with a suspect. We turn every stone. Like I said again, I am just so proud of the work of our homicide unit, and I really would like to highlight this. Within the last year and probably year and a half, our homicide unit has actually solved about 13 to 14 cold cases. That is closing the loop for families who have been waiting years for the closure. And for our men and women to provide them that information is just so awesome. And I think that actually, I tell the other residents, hey, we're not going to stop. And hopefully we do come up and we were able to close their case as well. But we're not going to stop. We're always out there trying to investigate those cold cases.